Bert! Get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. What's up, everybody? It is Monday the 17th, and there's a reason. I was out in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania. I judged Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the Versal Hunting Dog Federation. Had a great time, saw some greater dogs, had some great meals. I had Wiener Schnitzel at a little restaurant. Oh my God, Ach du Liebe. I got it 2 nights in a row. It was that good. I got it 2 nights in a row. I rarely do that when I'm going out to a restaurant. I didn't want to try something else on the menu. But apology ahead of time. I just sent my audio file to my editor to see if he could clean it up, because this one may be a little annoying to listen to. My apologies. We were set up by the water after we got done with the testing on Sunday, and in an effort to save me a little time on the way home, I asked everybody if they could just stay at the water and do it. It was a little windy out, but I was trying to watch the microphone, and we were trying to keep a wind block on it. And it don't sound so good. So to make this up to you, I'm not going to have an intro. I mean, I am, but I'm not going to do all I'm going to do is say the title of this show is Onyx Hunt. Gunner Kennels, W Supply, Garmin, Canine Athlete, Mossberg, Boss Shells, Purina Pro Plan, Waltons, Marshwear, 4-Wheel Camper, Arxis Boots, Arxis USA, that's with a K. Nope, just kidding, Jack. ARXUS, USA.com. Check out their boots. That's it. That's all I'm going to make you sit through. That was not bad, like 2 minutes. And like 90% of it was an explanation why this audio is probably not going to sound too good. But the information in it is what you're going to love. We get into some breeding and training and testing questions, a little history of the Federation, bring a couple apprentices on to talk about their experiences at the end. I'll tell you what, I love this group. You're going to love it when you see it and decide to, yeah, you know what? I want to get into the Federation. You know what I'm saying? All right, talk to you soon. Love you guys, love you girls. Love you girls more.
All right, everybody. I am out in the middle of BF, Pennsylvania. I don't know where I'm at exactly. I'm near a big golf course, and I just finished up a 3-day test with the Versal Hunting Dog Federation Northeast chapter. It's been just a pleasure to get back in the field and judge people and their dogs. It's something I've always loved and will continue to love, and I love the opportunity I've been given by the VHDF. See, I got that right, didn't I, Chad?
No VDHF.
Right, I'm getting all the acronyms right. And so we had a 3-day test here. But I got to go into the background a little bit right in the beginning. With Jeff Funky is here from Napa, Idaho. Jeff, how did the Federation start?
There you go. Call it the Federation.
How did the Federation start?
The Federation started as a group of judges who felt that there were a few items that could be improved upon, and essentially trying to take the best of the best from the existing systems. A scoring system, maybe mid-level tests that can be improved upon, and a few other items. And you had a number of longtime versatile dog people, including Bodo, Ed Bailey, Joe Schmutz, myself, come up with the idea, and we spent a year or two working on the rules. Mm-hmm. And in 2006, we had our first meeting, and it became a reality.
And I don't want to oversimplify it, because it was more tailored after what the German system of testing was, or was that mostly in the numerical side of it?
Yes and no. I think mostly on the numerical side, and then taking the test subjects and using what the average or rank and file North American hunter would appreciate the most.
Yeah, because we have different styles here. You even lived in Germany.
Yes.
So we have. I don't know if we have different appreciations, but definitely different styles.
Different styles.
Right.
And I've had breeders from Germany and other parts of Europe come out and hunt with me in Idaho, and they were blown away. They didn't know anything like that even existed.
Really?
They could not comprehend a dog on point with birds out, 200-300 yards away.
Because that just doesn't. That's not the picture of Europe.
Yeah,
right.
It doesn't happen. They're hunting. Everything, everywhere has its own approach. But let's face it. A lot of Europe is hunting hedgerows, and they're not going to take off across a huge field. They're going to go into the hedgerows and the wooded areas where the game is concentrated.
Yeah.
And they might be hunting a 40-acre field.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
But they probably hunt everything from rabbits to
deer,
a boar,
fox,
and then if there was a bird there,
yeah, it'd be a bird too. Exactly.
Did you, when you started back in your judging days, judging versatile dogs, did that also just stick with you? Like I don't want to say got away from the true hunting situation, but I've told you several times when we get together, Ken Whitney was one of my mentors.
Right.
And he always told me when we're judging dogs, he would say, would you hunt there? Could you hunt there?
Right.
And I think that got lost somewhere, but I think what the Federation has done, it's come up several times this weekend. You literally say, we're hunting. We're making it as real as we can.
Right.
But in a hunting situation, and that's what made me really fall in love with the system, on top of the 10-point scoring system, which I want to get into, and I want to get some feelings. I'm going to get into the new board and the new everything. But what I want people to know is, my past in versatile dog judging was always regulated through, well, you could say 0 if something went really bad, but 1 through 4.
Right.
Was that ever considered an option, or did you know that was not a great way to? There wasn't enough nuance, there wasn't enough range.
It was never considered an option, and ironically, going back to when I was trained as a versatile judge, Ken Whitney was one of the people who spent a lot of time with me. He was actually a director at the time. I think he was director of judging at the time, and so we had him out to Idaho several times, and I judged behind him in a number of other places. So, yes, the mentality then was treat it as you would if it were a hunting situation.
Right.
What would happen if this were a hunting situation? Right. And somewhere along the line that changed a little bit, and I think the education is handled differently now. So when BHDF was created, we took hunting very seriously. We are primarily an organization of wild bird hunters who are also breeders, versatile dog aficionados,
right,
and
some members of breed clubs, yes, and everything.
Yes.
Never intended or never will be a registration.
No.
There's plenty of paperwork and data on registered dogs in this world.
Never will have a registry.
No. So one of the other things, when I came to this, coming from a 4-point system to a 10-point system, I immediately was like, wow, I don't have to be I got 3 choices. And the dog is so much on the border. And I'm being 100% honest here. Until you get some years behind you judging, where you can just say, no, I'm sorry, that's a 3 or that's a 4. You long for an ability to say, how many times have you heard, I have a low 3 or I have a low 4. Well, we didn't have the option to actually, that wasn't on our scorecard. But with 10 points, you get degrees of work from excellent. If you do excellent work, you can get above 10 points. If you do very good work, you get good work. It's managed in such a way that you get a better picture of the dog. And what you told me the first time we met last year was picture going online and looking at people's websites, and somebody says, yeah, my last litter was all 4s. And that's a true statement, which is what most people are used to in this country. And then once we judged dogs out here, we did a clinic and we did a test weekend, and you said to me, imagine if you were looking at a litter and they were all 10s, because you could also be a 9 and an 8 and a 7 and still be 4, kind of. And that really broke it down for me. Like, that's got to help breeders more than anything else, because it really shows you an exceptional.
The granularity of the 10-point system and the importance of it cannot be overstated.
Yeah.
You can utilize that system to increase your selection pressure by a magnitude of something. I don't know what that number is, but I know when I utilized the 4-point system, I labored along and struggled to get what I wanted.
Right.
Within several years of utilizing the 10-point system, we no longer had mediocre dogs in our program.
You knew the top.
Yes.
And to kind of identify it, you could say a dog that earns a 10 in any, whether it's the hay, which is the version of a young dog's test.
Right.
We almost call it a puppy test.
Puppy test, yeah.
But there is no age restriction on it.
No.
So a person that gets into hunting late can say, I wonder how my dog is.
Yep.
That dog also does not have to be part of a federation registry. It doesn't even have to be a part of any registry.
Yeah, it could be unregistered, and it would be annotated as such.
It would be annotated, but it's the ability to come there with that dog is there.
Yes.
For people. And that 10-point system, I just can't harp on it enough. It is so accurate. It makes even judging consensuses so much easier. It just makes it easier. So Kyle was judging Friday with us. Chad, you were along with us. Chad is what is your new position? The new position.
Effectively, the chair or the president of VHDF now.
The Grand Poobah? Could we call it the Grand Poobah?
Maybe from a title perspective, but not from a knowledge base.
Right.
Certainly Jeff will be helping the board, and he's a member of the board. In fact, he'll be continued to be the director of testing, as well as judging, and we'll continue to lean on the foundation that Jeff's brought to the organization. But we're super excited. There's a time of growth coming, I think, and opportunity, and all the things that Jeff just touched on. I think data in today's world has certainly grown, from what it was maybe 20 years ago, I'll even say 5 years ago. Data mining, data accuracy, KPIs, ability to understand, the 10-point system and what that'll provide, I think is a good foundation for us for the future.
Yeah. And you guys had your annual meeting at Pheasant Fest this year.
Yeah, in Sioux Falls.
To try to bring in, that from people all over, and it's certainly not rebranding, but like a little vigor, a little. Have you guys done that in the past, Jeff, where you got people in, other than maybe a teleconference?
We've done that once in the past. We've had some meetings in Minnesota, out of the Minneapolis area, but we've had such a tremendous response from this out in Pennsylvania in the Northeast that they needed some representation in the organization, and so that's what happened at that meeting. There was a lot of new folks that came up with new ideas, And it's different. I mean, every area is different.
They want to learn how they can work with you and grow this. So Kyle, you come from a long testing background in versatile dog testing, a breeder.
Yeah.
You're going to have to come in a little closer because it's a little windy. And let's see if I can do that. What was your journey to get to the Federation?
Yeah, so I started off with NAVDA and also the JGHV. I like the German testing system. And I tested in it for a number of years, and then I've tested in NAVDA for a number of years and really like it and enjoy it. But I also breed wire hairs, and when I learned about the VHDF and the reasons why and what it would do and the information it provided, I drove from Pennsylvania all the way out to Minnesota to start testing my dogs because that was the nearest chapter I heard of, and I wanted to go test my dogs. So the VHDF kind of gave me the answers to the test on what I was looking for as a breeder because I wanted dogs that excelled in all these hunting situations. A well-rounded dog, and testing there, the information that's provided gets me to reach my goals much quicker than the way I was going about it.
And because of the accuracy of it, and
It's-
like you said, the granulization.
It discriminates good dogs from great dogs real quick.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And I can use that information and I can accelerate my breeding program, by 20 years.
Yeah, I don't want to say that. It's an understatement to say that's a big plus.
Yeah, it is for me, and I'm serious, but I'm also a serious hunter. And people within VHDF are like-minded, and I really enjoy the atmosphere.
Yeah. Now, we should speak about that. I think any group when it starts is probably a little bit more hardcore, and a little bit, you could almost say, heavy on the hunting side.
Yeah.
Which is what NAVDA was back in the day. Yeah. You rarely met anybody that was there for the game of it. They were there because, I want to hunt, and I like these people. I wonder how good my dog can do. Mm-hmm. The change from a 4-point system to a 10-point system, you said, it really lets you evaluate your puppies.
Yeah.
I'm sure on upper levels too, but then at that point, as a breeder, you'd have to kind of give up. How much emphasis do you put on the hay test, the puppy test?
Yeah. So I ask my puppy owners to look at the hay test. I look at the information as being valuable. And it is. It's incredibly valuable. The test that I really enjoy within the VHDF is the AHAY test. And I use a lot of that information for any breeding prospects that I might have in the future because it really discriminates those differences.
So, then you can see that the dog is, even maybe by a first or second time owner, the dog is trainable because you can't just breed on talent.
Yeah.
It's got to have, is the right word biddability? Or, that's an old word everybody uses.
There's things there that appear naturally.
Yeah.
That surprise you.
But that makes
it does
training
consistent.
Makes training easy?
So as a trainer, and that's where I see it so much more clear, is it's easier to train these dogs now once you start following this guideline because it makes life easier for me. And I always jokingly say, hey, instead of training Saturday and Sunday, we can watch football with our dog now on Sunday. You just train Saturday. They pick things up quick because we've bred for specific characteristics within our dogs.
Right. So I don't want to leave this out. It's not a main focus of this because the Federation is open to all breeds. You've had all breeds, Jeff, right? Everything from everything.
I think we have close to 30 breeds
that have come in for testing.
Yeah, or 30 different registries. Some of them might be considered the same breed.
But I wouldn't mind speaking to just a bit, maybe one or both of you, about the Wire Hair Alliance, because I think everybody's heard me with Bob Ferris on the podcast several times about what they did with the Pudelpointer Alliance, where it was set, and I could be messing this up, but kind of breeders agreeing to not be a breed club, but to hold themselves to a set of standards that they all agree with. When did that all come about? Is that because that I really don't know the history of.
So the Wire Hair Alliance, I think the idea there came about because we were trying to avoid reinventing the wheel, so to speak. There were a lot of great dogs being bred, and then they might be tested, and maybe you have anything from high-scoring dogs to great hunting dogs producing progeny that all do extremely well, and then some of those dogs go back into the gene pool, but with novice breeders and owners who don't know that the dogs need to be health checked, need to be tested, need to have their temperament looked at, et cetera, et cetera. So then maybe a dog gets a great score, but it was never tested for thyroid. And so now a bunch of people breed to this dog because it maybe gets some type of a championship title. And now you've got multiple dogs with bad thyroid.
Yeah.
So the idea of the alliance was, let's come together on what we need to do health-wise and performance-wise to create kind of a minimum standard.
Right.
And as breeders, we could all agree to this. And that's how it was started. The time frame was, again, I think it was 2007 or 8 or somewhere in there. And we didn't want a strict breeding requirement because
Not a black and white yes no thing.
right, we didn't want somebody like an autocratic system.
Right.
We wanted a system of qualifications that you had to obtain to breed the dog, and it's similar to the Pudelpointer Alliance, I would say. And now we started off with I think a half a dozen breeders maybe, and now it's up into the 20s, which I think. And the other part of it was a lot of us didn't know each other, and you've got geography separating people.
Sure. Yeah.
And so when they talk about this kennel or that kennel, you didn't really have the information, and so you were probably neutral on the kennel or on their dogs. And now we all know each other, and we collaborate,
Right.
and we share information, and we trust each other, and we all know each other's dogs. So instead of saying, I don't know about that person, I can now say that anybody who's in the Wire Hair Alliance, I trust their program.
Right.
So
Right. When did you jump on board, Kyle,
With
with the alliance?
well, I came in. I got to give kudos to the gentleman besides Jeff, Kelly Jobs. I spoke to quite a bit about the Wire Hair Alliance. I was kind of indifferent about it in the beginning because I already lived to those standards or even more.
Right.
And so when he was talking to me about it, and the more he spoke to me about it, I could tell he's passionate. And, if we could get 20 or 30 breeders across the country on that same page, I mean, that's a win-win situation all the way around.
Right.
So it's probably the last 2 years that I've been more active within the alliance. Maybe 3 years I joined and was watching from the outside.
So like you said, you kind of held yourself to that standard, but you were happy to help other people bring themselves to that standard too.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's important. Yeah. I mean, because
you love the breed.
You do, and you shouldn't breed unless you want to try to improve with what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just to crank out a couple litters.
Correct.
Because I loved my dog.
Right.
And I will tell a really self-deprecating story here. When I got into the Bracco Italianos, I got involved with their breed club, and we were talking about testing, and I started talking about what I knew of Bob Ferris's Pudelpointer Alliance. And I said, I think we need to do this. We need to hold ourselves to a standard. We need to have some meetings. And right off the bat, one of the breeders said, well, we need our own testing system. And I was like, no, there's some really good testing systems out here.
Yeah.
And they're already versatile dogs. And he said, no, we need our own testing system. And I said, I don't understand why. And they said, this person said, well, a lot of Broncos don't swim good. And I said to them, then a lot of Broncos shouldn't be bred. and nothing. And that was about the end of my involvement with my attempt to start But I would have loved to do that, because I think that just like putting a federation together, like, you like what's out there, but you can improve on it. You can offer something to people that is as close as you can get to what you think. It's not perfection. In fact, Jeff, we talked over the weekend. There will be areas that, just like any club, will say, you know what, we're going to tweak this rule or this application, or you know what, from now on, let's add this or subtract this. It's not cast in stone or anything.
Right. Every breed is different, and I think most testing organizations provide the performance data on the dog. So if you have a slow maturing breed and you want to put your own breed's testing cutoff for the puppy test at 20 months, then they're welcome to do that. Another group might put it at 12 months. Other people might do it by the hunting calendar year, like the JGHV system does. So it's just the information that's useful, and the breed clubs can tailor it to their own needs, because obviously some breeds are at different levels than other breeds are. Right. They have more genetic
diversity and expand. They're in other, like, there's breeds in versatile dog world that do every venue, from field trials to hunt retrieve to water, and then there's other breeds that are kind of, I don't want to say sheltered, but they haven't expanded yet.
Well, yeah, they're newer,
and
they haven't been in this country as long.
Right. Chad, I want to say, not that you have to give a vision plan, but what are some of the things that the Federation's working on coming up?
Yeah, so I think we're at probably a situation where we're going to be in hopefully a growth mode, and we've recently established a new board, and we've got a mix of foundational, what I'll call keystones, which I think are needed for the organization for stability. And there's also, as Jeff mentioned, I think there's some new ideas, and we're in a different era than we were when the Federation was formed. And there's a lot of background work that has to happen for sustainability, things that are not at face value, so to speak.
Things that people wouldn't see pulling up.
Things that people don't see pulling up in the face of the VHDF, the hunting and the breed information, breeder information. Mm-hmm. This is a foundation which I would say is based on hunting, as Kyle mentioned. And I think that'll be key to keep that in mind as we go through a growth period. And, we're excited about that. What I would say, we're going to be a foundation of data. We're going to go through probably a strategic plan of up to 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Looking forward to what?
Before we retool.
Yeah. Instead of just changing, you're like...
We're not, I don't think we're looking to change. I don't know if a facelift or, a retooling is necessary. I think it's,
set a goal.
I think we need to have some specific goals to get to the next steps and grow the organization. I think we're there as far as ideas and thoughts, and we'll continue to work on a strategic plan that we'll roll out with our new board and have some key objectives that we want to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, we want to cater to, the hunting community, have standards, have information available for folks, whether you're a breeder. As mentioned, we have two key breeders here. We talked about the German Alliance, German Wirehair Alliance, which I've recently joined before I've ever bred wirehair.
Right.
So I want to understand it, and I want to understand the details and the value that it can add. But I'll tell you, there's a couple of things in our vision that we really want to provide stability of information, have a foundation of it, and cater to those folks who are looking for more data and more, as Kyle mentioned, how do we make it easier?
Right.
Because we have dogs who have capability, and information is key in identifying that, and the ability not only of the dog in the system that it's testing in.
Right.
But how do we multiply that quicker, so we don't have to see generations of testing and, maybe this dog was good, maybe it wasn't. Maybe there's some opportunities in a certain line. I think the information is available quicker because of the 10-point system, I think is a good way to put that. So what we want to do essentially is take that and be able to serve that data up. At the end of the day, that's
So
really what
the
this
goal
is.
that Joe Schmo could get on the website and get some serious data.
Yeah, I think that data, in any situation, data is key to making the decision that has a long-term impact, right? We're talking about breeding a dog, two dogs with a litter of puppies that takes sometimes at a minimum years of evaluation to make a determination on that breeding.
Right.
So we want the best information, the most information out of that breeding, and to be able to share it. This is not a secret. It's not about a competition. It's about sharing that information for any type of dog.
Yeah.
And I think that's, something we want to expand upon, so we have that information. And it's not only important for breeders. It's important, for the
Eventual owner.
The owner is
Yeah.
critical. The type of dog, the type of hunting. When we talk about water testing, we talk about, land testing, upland testing, and even folks who are interested in, doing things other than hunting, right? There's a lot of evaluation of cooperation and, other forms of, just having a good pet. And at the end of the day, there's also health testing and those things. And, one thing we haven't touched on is confirmation, but I think that's something unique and, maybe not unique to every testing organization, but it's an opportunity with VHDF to have a total package of health, history, data and testing in multiple venues, information for not only breeders and folks who are interested like we are, like-minded folks, but also for individual owners.
Yeah.
Getting that information wrapped up and being able to serve that out to folks and breed clubs and organizations and alliances and all sorts of platforms, and information's key. And I think that's something that we're going to be focused on in the future.
Well, I was glad to see you guys did that, and I'm tickled to be part of it, whatever part of I am. I think I'm getting thrown into promotions at some point. Is that right, Jeff? Because you figure like I should be able to get some of my sponsors to say, "Hey, this is the real deal." One of the things I do want to touch on is, and I know I had you on before, Jeff, and we talked about the test, but the test levels are hunting aptitude, right? The hay test, it's referred to, hunting aptitude evaluation, right? And then advanced hunting evaluation or aptitude evaluation. Right. There's also another level to the Federation that's called the PE test, which right off the bat, as a poor high school student, scared the crap out of me. I wasn't good in PE, which is physical education. And when I came out here to apprentice and to learn about the system, there's a level of Federation testing where you do run in a brace and you're evaluating with another dog in the field without having to wait for a year or a qualification or an invitation. Not to make fun of it, but I mean, if a breeder or I shouldn't say a breeder, if a handler wants to say, boy, you know what? I got this really good dog. I think he could do more. Federation has a test that really challenges that.
It does, and that's the performance evaluation. And I will say first that, you mentioned hunting aptitude evaluation and advanced hunting aptitude evaluation, and those are named such for a reason. It's about aptitude.
It wasn't to get a hard acronym to remember?
It was not.
Okay, good. We're good. We're getting somewhere. We're getting
Only for you, Rob.
Only for me. Okay.
But those evaluations are primarily there to evaluate the genetic value of the parents of that dog,
Right.
and what they can contribute. So it's good to have whole litters or as many dogs in a litter tested in those aptitude evaluations,
Right.
so that you can validify or validate the genetic value of the parents.
Right.
When you get into the performance evaluation, it's exactly what it says, performance. So it's the team performance
Right.
that's looked at. And yes, it's I've run in the JGHV system, I've run in the NAVDA system, I've run Shoot Retrieve, AKC. I've judged in all of those organizations as well. And I would say that the performance evaluation VHDF is the most difficult one-day test that there is in North America for a versatile hunting.
Yeah, short of how your dog acts on coming out of the back of your truck, it's a tough test, right? You'll allow a little bit of bad behavior at the tailgate, or are you watching that too?
I don't.
Because I've always heard that with the German system, like they're watching you the minute you open your tailgate.
Yeah,
Is that true, Kyle?
You know, you know, they
It's like
do.
I've heard that you're under judgment all day, even when you're not in the field. Is that
you are, you know.
Right.
I think the beauty of that PE evaluation is, one, it's not a competitive test in any way, shape, or form, but there's information that you gather from that level of that testing, that with training, with the relationship with the dog, and that evaluation from that day. It's intense.
Yeah.
But you can really get, as a breeder, you can get valuable information. You can really accelerate a breeding program out of.
And you know, the biggest difference from most everything else is that your field work, you're not going home with a ribbon or a new name or anything like that. You're coming here for an evaluation of,
And that's all it is.
that's it.
Yeah.
What's the saying? No gold stars, just a score.
It's on the banner.
It's on the banner. It actually says no prizes.
Just results.
Just results. That's perfect.
Yeah, and you know, it's really nice because if you're a serious breeder or somebody who wants to be a serious breeder, you can take that information. It's not competitive,
Right.
and you use it to your advantage. It's free. It's
Right.
It's like cheating. You get the answers to the test.
Right.
Right there it is. It's
Right.
great information.
So in the PE test, the dogs are running their field work in a brace,
Yeah,
which there's versions of that in other organizations.
there is.
The judgment of the dogs, now we're looking for a fully trained dog, steady to wing, shot, and fall. And, you know, ideally, it can go all wrong, like any dog test can. But ideally, you're getting to see a dog that hasn't been with another dog early. You can run this test as often as you want. You can run this test if you can find it, and if you can sign up for it. You can literally really know what your dog's going to be like hunting with another dog that you may not, your dog has never met. And I think everybody could attest to the fact that not all dogs get along, and dogs are competitive. So then to train a dog, this is a kind of a training question for both Jeff and Kyle. Is it difficult to train a dog to hunt with another dog, or is it more early exposure of hunting with another dog? Because the vacuum I lived in was just one dog, until a hunting trip with a buddy, and we just let him go, right? Is that how do you handle that in a training situation, knowing that at some point you want to run in a test where you'll have a brace mate?
Yeah, so you know, I do NAVDA, and I really enjoy training, testing within NAVDA and the people in NAVDA. And my NAVDA days go back almost 25 years. Mm-hmm. So I would say it's still really limited on, you know, those folks are running natural ability, you're running utility, and then they get that exposure of running a brace.
Right.
You know, so I've really changed, and my belief is you take that puppy that's 16, 20 weeks old, and you put them down on wild birds with your other dogs, and you use the information from the VHDF where you have dogs that are natural backers, and that comes out during the test, and you could take that information, and that just trickles down, that now all of a sudden I have a litter of puppies that are out there backing naturally as opposed to trained.
Which a lot of cases that's just not the case.
Oh yeah,
They're all
yeah.
worried about just
It was like an
being by itself in the field.
Yeah, it was
They're
like an afterthought. We're going to do the utility, and then now at 4 years old, we're going to worry about backing.
Yeah, that bit me in the butt once upon a time.
Yeah.
Although my dog was in hunting situations, he was a natural backer, and somebody told me that I needed to get it in front of 11 different dog breeds, and he got really bored with that shit. But how about you, Jeff, in training? When do you start putting dogs together earlier than you used to, or have you had a plan in your head?
I wouldn't say earlier than I used to. I'm a wild bird hunter.
Right.
That's my priority. And so when every single person almost that buys a puppy from me has a prior dog from me.
Right.
And so every single one of them asks me, how do I hunt this dog this fall? Do I hunt it by itself? Do I hunt it with our older dog? And the answer is real simple, is you do both. You hunt them by themselves and you hunt them with the older dog. And in particular, if you, like in my case and Kyle's case, you are going to hunt a puppy a lot of times with its mother. And when they see their mother on point, they stop and back.
Really?
Yes, every time.
I would have failed that question if it was a trivia question.
No,
I would have.
Yeah.
And so they start young, backing their mom, and pretty soon they realize that
It's not
dog
an insult.
stops.
It's not an insult to back. It's
It's
part
business. That's business. That's
it's
how you
just
do
bus-
life.
business
Yeah.
as usual.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they'll do it with other dogs then. You gradually start hunting them with either, aunts, uncles, your buddy's dog,
Yeah.
the neighbor's dog, whatever. And so in my case, it's wild birds. Now, if I'm going to run a high-level test like a performance evaluation, yeah, I'm going to give myself some insurance and I'm going to go out there and do some steadiness training.
Right.
And stop
With
the
another
flush and with another dog or two. I want to do a long-tailed dog, a short-tailed dog, a dark dog, and a light dog.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I always felt that was a, when it's just a bunch of buddies hunting with their dogs together, you kind of accept chaos. But as breeders and trainers, with both of you are, there is a little bit more. There's a little more planning to it.
Absolutely. We all of our puppies go through the same program, and that consistency allows us to evaluate them on wild birds, which testing is important for us as breeders to be able to have a common standard across the country.
Right.
I'm out west. Today we're in
You guys are
Pennsylvania.
2,000 miles apart
Right.
Ted, from where you live.
But he'll come out there and hunt. I'll come out here and hunt. And, we have to be able to have a common language.
Yeah.
But when it boils down to it, the bar is much higher on wild bird hunting.
Right.
I always give the example. I had two sisters that both got UT prize ones at 17 months old. Wow. And back before VHDF, I was
Right.
running in Navda. And one of them would find every bird in the country. And the other one was just okay.
But it still earned its score.
Got a prize one UT,
Right.
but it got sold.
Yeah.
And it had a nice life by a very nice family and had a great
Found
hunting
birds
life.
for that family.
Yeah. And the other one stayed with me.
But I think one of the things to touch on here is the organization is founded on hunting.
Right.
And
That shouldn't be undersold. Yeah.
although, as you mentioned, it could be chaos with hunting buddies, that's not ever the intent. And, in some ways it's, you could lose a hunting buddy in some ways.
Sure, it's happened.
If you don't have some of the qualities that these
Luckily,
guys...
none of my hunting buddies have dogs, so I look good.
Yeah, these guys are talking about. But at the end of the day, hunting is something that's, a lot of people have passion for. And if you're a serious hunter and you have no intention of breeding, you should really understand the testing system and what the attributes of it, because as you're talking about backing, it's very important.
Yeah, it is.
If you're going to hunt more than one dog, which most people do, or with a hunting buddy, and to see that, poetry in motion, as it's been explained many times,
Yeah.
and to see the backing and multiple dogs backing when you have a lot of dogs on the ground, I think there's something to be said about the quality of the hunt and the accuracy of the hunt and the way that it's intended. And the scoring system of BHDF will help, extrapolate that data.
Yeah.
And it's free to hunters. And I think that's something that, I don't want to say it's overlooked, but I think it's a compliment to an individual who's looking for a dog to hunt, who hunts with other folks. And, it's beautiful to watch when you're in the woods.
I'll go back to self-deprecating about my breed of choice over the last decade or so. As much as, backing is the last thing you want you to do is your dog to come over a hill and see two dogs on point and think in his head, hey, why'd you guys stop hunting? Okay? But that just comes from my ownership of Broncos, because there ain't a backing Bronco in this freaking country. But backing aside, just working with other dogs in the field, because you could have a shit show just from a competitive, you could go hunting with your best friend, and those two dogs at some point, when not exposed to this, are literally in a chase for the first bird. Mm-hmm. So we're not even effectively hunting. So knowing that that's kind of what you have done, in the end, whether you're going to test this dog or whether you're going to hunt, you're very likely going to hunt with another dog. Mm-hmm. And
even in your own household.
A lot of
people have multiple dogs,
and they want to take both of them out.
Yes,
yeah. Right.
And when you see yourself and 2 or 3 or 5 dogs down work in tandem,
right?
Again,
I saw that once.
Yeah, I've saw it many times and witnessed it.
I saw it once.
Yeah, and you have no interference. It's an enjoyable hunt.
Spectacular.
Well, and in the European tradition, most of these hunt tests are run with a single dog. And in North America, the truth is almost all the time you're going to be hunting with another dog, whether it's a buddy.
We're very social. We
so
want to go with our buddies and go hunting.
To go full circle on the performance evaluation, that's an opportunity to train for and evaluate your dog in a brace type scenario.
Right.
And it should be readily available to anybody who wants to participate in it at any time.
Not once a year. Right. It's available out there.
Yes.
Now I want to break down a little of the test. We're not going to go too far into the weeds here, but two of the things. Well, I'm going to take the one thing I love the most about this testing system is in the AHE test. This is the Advanced Hunting Aptitude Evaluation.
Gun dog test.
Gun dog test. This is a dog that you either, if you're not hunting, it's a shame, because it's a real hunting dog.
It is.
What we do in the water with this dog is there's a mark retrieve, which is not that difficult. It shows us behaviors of the dog. It might show us a retrieve, but it shows us this dog is willing to go in and sees a bird go through the air, splash in the water, and go get it. It's not overly impressive for dog work, but it's telling us something. But the favorite part of this test, and I don't know, and I want Jeff to speak on this a little bit, is the search behind the duck. People would, we might even slip up and say, oh, we're doing duck search. But what we use in this test is we get a duck that's just out there maybe 30, 40 yards. And it might cost us a few minutes in the course of a day, but we're willing to do this. We want this duck to just slowly or fast, if we get the ducks to agree with us, just kind of disappear across the water and leave its oiled, feathered scent trail. And then we take a dog, send it into the water, and when it hits that line of scent in that water, to me, it's the sexiest thing in the test. You know what I mean? Because you get a dog that's obedient, you say, out, hunt him up, hunt dead, whatever you want to say. Dog goes out there, but because there's an opportunity, we watch this duck hit the water, and we know ducks stink. And we know ducks have oil on their feathers. And we kind of know, or we usually know, where that duck went to. Then we see a dog that goes out there willingly on his command And then it goes, almost like, oh my God, are we hunting? I didn't hear you shoot, but son of a gun, I'm into something here. And to watch that dog track ducks on the water, I think that was lost in versatile testing. It was just lost.
Yeah. If you think about duck hunting,
Which is what this feels like.
it definitely feels like it. And by the way, I agree with you. I mean, probably one of the reasons I keep judging every time that dog transitions into that duck scent and takes off, it's a thrill.
Right.
And look what we saw today. I mean, we saw some incredible work tracking over hundreds and hundreds of yards of water.
Right.
And I don't think there's a test that I've been to where people don't come up to me and say, dogs can track on water?
Well, I tell you, in other organizations, not just our old one, they don't know that.
Right.
And then, but that's what a duck hunting dog has been doing since we got gunpowder in number 6 shot.
Right. So,
Really, right? Good duck dog rarely loses a duck.
yeah. And so
Rarely.
if you think about duck hunting, as you said, which this feels like and looks like, then you have 3 recovery scenarios that are most common, right?
Yeah.
You've got a dead duck that you know where it's at,
Right.
which is what we do in the first segment.
Yep.
The marked water retrieve. You got a dead duck that you don't know where it's at, which is probably the most difficult, and so that scenario is reserved for the higher level test,
The PE test.
the PE
Right.
test.
Right.
And then you got a crippled duck,
Right.
which especially since we went to still shot, it's been more
Way
common.
more prevalent.
And
way
now
more prevalent.
we're getting a lot better shot, like some of your
Oh, like Boss ammo?
like Boss,
We could do a mini commercial, but you're right.
like Boss shots.
If you can hit it, you can kill it.
Copper plated tungsten, if
Or
I'm
copper plated tungsten and bismuth was
Bismuth.
the first, but
Bismuth.
yeah.
But that's the most common scenario, and that's what we're trying to replicate.
Right.
And a dog that's 14, 15, 16 months old, you're going to be hunting, and it should be able to recover a crippled duck.
Right.
And because that's the highest call for these dogs, is to recover crippled game. Because
Yeah.
crippled game, first of all, it's cruel to leave it out
It
there.
is.
And
We talked this morning. We almost start feeling bad as we get older.
Yeah, you don't want to shoot.
You don't want to kill it. Like you've survived this whole winter. You've raised a brood of chicks, and now we're going to kill you. But it is. I think we've all hunted here a lot. It's heartbreaking to lose a bird. I don't care if it's a quail or a pheasant or a duck, and that you can get your dog trained to. And we know that the instinct, it's an instinct based. You can't train your dog to track. You can steer him to it. But then to watch that blossom and really use his nose on the water, that is, it's the best part of the test to me.
And I think it's not only required as a ethical hunter, it's a responsibility.
Yeah.
To
Should
track
be.
to
Should
track
be.
that wounded game and give everyone's best effort from the hunter
Right.
and the animal,
Right.
the dog, and the animal that was that you're hunting. And
Kind of a, what as the Native Americans say, a good death.
yeah, yeah. But it's not only it's a responsibility to give the best effort.
No.
And when you can train a dog and you see a dog through testing at, as Jeff mentioned, 15, 16 months, whatever, at whatever level,
Or they could be whatever age.
whatever experience they have to do a best effort to recover that duck. And I mean, I can speak from personal experience. If you've never hunted a duck marsh, it's very easy to lose a duck into a section of reeds,
Right.
of cattails,
Right.
of any type of waterfowl
Or water that just goes
environment.
on to other places.
And even dry land, and to see a dog work through that and have that experience and see it excel.
Right.
And again, back to the foundation of information.
Right.
If I'm looking for a dog, why would I not want to understand how that dog's parents were evaluated.
Right.
And the best hunting partner I could ask for, and certainly, Kyle and Jeff can speak to this as well as you, Ron, to recover that game. And as easy it is to train, but to see the natural inherent abilities of that dog of any breed to go out and execute that,
and then bringing them out with training, and then applying it in the hunting field.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it makes the hair on the back. I can tell you, I have 20 good retrieving stories. I can't tell you a good pointing story. I mean, like, what are you going to be an old guy in the hospital bed someday? It's like, I remember how good my dog pointed. But you're going to tell those retrieving stories.
I'll tell you what.
You're going to tell those.
The pointing stories goes back to the backing. And I can recall several times
that's
in
a
Western
different
states
yeah.
about seeing pointing and seeing dogs stacked back to back to back over 200 yards.
Yeah.
5 to 6 dogs backed. Last year in Montana is a case of that. And to see those.
I've never seen that.
You've never seen that. You're missing out.
No, I've seen it with. I've owned different dog breeds, but no, that is my. That is I had wire hairs. Come on, I just fell off the wagon. Right, I got to get back on the wagon. Right, I'm getting closer.
We're talking a lot about wire hairs, but it's any breed of dog has the ability to do that because a lot of breeds have that ability. But to see that with yourself or hunting partners, those are some of the most memorable moments that I certainly have. I can as I'm talking this, I'm visualizing several.
It's like we all want to jump in with retrieve stories.
Yeah.
And guess what? If you have a breed and some of the dogs are doing that natural backing so well, this testing organization is just going to make it so obvious the ones that are.
You're going to do a
and
favor
you can
for
use that information and you can improve with what you're already doing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, hey, I'm taking it and I'm getting from point A to point B quick. I'm now all of a sudden my next litter is back.
Yeah.
Naturally.
And we had folks here this weekend and most weekends when we test who have never seen some of that work. They're either new to it or, they haven't seen that type of work historically. Right. And when they see it in the testing environment, and how do you get your dog to do that? There was a very senior person here today that had a great dog that was evaluated, and I think he commented several times about, oh, wait till I do the PE test and watch this dog back naturally. It's very little work for the handler.
Yeah.
It's sometimes, I don't want to say hands off, but it's very little work for them when the dog has that natural trait and it's been bred into the program to see, some of the success that dog will have in the future.
Yeah.
It's a story waiting to happen.
You can almost think like you're kind of writing a story for next season when you see that come.
And they're excited about it. The people that see this are excited about it.
Is there any parts of the test that you guys like more than that?
Well, I'll tell you, just to finish up on the backing, I think, and Kyle can speak to this, there seems to be a notion that it either backs or it doesn't back. And I think one of the things that we provide data-wise is, backing comes, it's a big picture, and it comes at all different levels. And not only does a 10-point system allow you to determine the intensity of the back and the speed of the back and when it happens and how willing the dog is to do it.
Right.
If you just say it backs, that kind of doesn't tell you an awful lot. That might be a totally trained behavior.
It could be, for sure.
Yeah, so I think it's important to throw that in there.
What do you think about backing, Kyle?
Yeah, so one of the things that I found fascinating when I ran my first PE dog was a dog that comes in and stops. That's not necessarily a nice back. In some, that's all that's required.
Right.
But what we're looking at as how it recognizes what it does with the information and the intensity.
Right.
And, that becomes genetic. And it separates the trained dog that has the stop.
Right.
And you can take that information and, I need to get my dogs in a natural backing. you can take that information and run with it.
Right.
No matter what breed you have.
Yeah.
And it's great.
That's another thing I would say. Like, I'm probably not. I'm screwing this up as far as my favorite. My favorite thing is to come back out and be with people, and judge people's dogs.
Never. We wouldn't have. We wouldn't have thought that. No.
Because I just love people and I love dogs, and it's like a little hunting trip to me. It's just like going on a hunting trip. But one of the other things I like about the Federation testing, and it goes to that 10-point system, but you could also say it could be me spiking the microphone too. It also goes to we get discussions about intensity on pointing, where you don't. If a dog stops and there's game in front of it, well, okay, dog's pointing, but we get to see a lot of variables and talk about a lot of variables. There is a lot of levels of intensity to pointing.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a serviceable hunting dog for sure.
And let's talk about why that's important.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody here can speak to that, but if you just accept the fact that the dog went on point and it's not moving, it's strictly staunch.
Right.
You're not incorporating the dog's natural talent
and desires
into the equation.
Yeah.
Because the ones that have that extremely intense, strong pointing instinct are so much easier to train than the ones that...
Oh, that's a good point. I'm not being a trainer for... You guys both have trained for customers. I didn't ever even thought of that. So when
it makes your steadiness training easier.
Because they're just that...
backing.
They're just that good. They're that intense at pointing.
Correct. Yeah.
See, that's...
I can give an example that I witnessed yesterday when we were doing a pheasant track for a hay dog, and the dog that was brought down to do the pheasant track, and the dog had come from an area it didn't see what was happening, but not only did the dog back, but it was backing people, and I saw that dog as it was being walked down. It didn't know what to expect, but it was backing.
So
there was no movement in the field, and it was naturally backing. It stopped and was somewhat intense because it was a natural trait. It knew that it didn't see movement, and it was naturally back.
Is that the dog that would back a Walmart bag stuck on a barbed wire fence too? Right.
It might, but it's so.
'Cause I've heard that. I've never seen it.
But I think it's such an inherent trait that the dog knows that it naturally will do that.
Right.
Regardless of what it's seen, it's understood that there's not movement, and I see objects, and I'm stopping.
And that kind of gives me a whole other rabbit hole to go down. I've had dogs that were good backers. I don't know if I maybe had one that was intense. But so when you see the dog that backs, let's just call it like Sears tools, Craftsman tools, good, better, best. When you see a dog that backs good, doesn't interfere with another dog, then you see backs better, maybe stops quicker, would you call that? And then you see the dog that looks like he smelled or she smelled the bird.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what does that do for you, like, as a breeder? I mean, you can't throw it all on that because there could be other faults in the dog, but I never thought about the importance of backing as much as I am sitting here at this table thinking about intensity in backing as well as pointing.
It's a lot more important than a lot of people realize.
That's what I'm getting at.
And again, from a training standpoint, having trained hundreds and hundreds of dogs to do these tasks, if they have that intensity, that simply means that they're more willing to do this behavior. And it also is appealing to the eye. I mean, it's and it gives you confidence. You can read your dog easier.
Right.
I hope this is a good example, but I was at an event that included backing in a brace, and there was a person handling a very intense backing dog, and the dog had backed another dog on point, and the judges didn't see the initial back, but they saw the aftermath of it. And when they came up, they were quite sure that the backing dog was the pointing dog.
Oh, really? It was that good.
It was that good.
It was that good.
And they argued for quite some time. No,
Did they start kicking the grass in front of them and see if there was a bird on point?
They literally insisted that had to be the pointing dog because the backing dog had more intensity than the pointing dog.
Wow.
So
That's pretty.
That's a dog that requires very little training.
Yeah, and you can hand that dog
See, that I
to
wanna-
somebody who's not skilled,
Yeah.
and they can hunt with their friends, and life is easier.
Yeah. See, I've never thought of that. So is that also inside the dog's cooperation thing? Because it's pointing is an instinct. Backing would be an extenuation of pointing.
Backing is absolutely a extension of pointing.
So the more intense the point, would you say probably the better backing dog? Generally, yeah. Other than there's handling errors and people do too many things and the dog starts going like, oh, he's not going to make me do this again with Bob. You got to throw that part out.
And there's a certain amount of the typical alpha dog hierarchy in that. I mean, your more alpha dogs they don't like to back as well.
Right.
Dogs that are lower in the pecking order are more willing to back oftentimes. But
I didn't know that.
That's not, as a rule, that's not what's causing them to back. That's just part of their overall demeanor.
Yeah.
When they're out hunting, some dogs are more willful than others. So.
I saw a couple of pointers when we were putting our video series together, and a client brought out 2 12-week-old pointers. And he says, can we put a couple birds down for him? And Justin said, he's like, and he's known this guy for years. He goes, Bob, he says, please just look, I just want to see. He says, I don't like the one dog's tail. But I saw these 2 puppies. First one got him to scent, 12 weeks old. The second puppy backed it. And it was that point the customer said, see, I told you I didn't like the tail on that dog. Now, that's a style thing. But I couldn't believe that even comes out that early. Mm-hmm. Like, I never saw that.
Yeah, I have.
How early have you seen?
6 and 7 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have my puppy facility is a building just for puppies, and it's climate controlled inside, and then they can go outside into a big yard. And I've seen at 5 weeks old a puppy out pointing a butterfly and another one come rolling out and back it.
And he was just coming out to probably relieve himself.
Yeah.
he's like, well, I gotta go.
And they just tail up, paw up, just like.
Damn, I gotta step my game up, guys.
There's a story that when as we're talking about backing and puppies, I can recall a time. It was, I think, about 3 years ago. I was at a seminar, and it was a duck search seminar. Actually, it was led by Kyle, and Kyle had I think there was at least 3 puppies, and an adult dog that were his dogs, and he had puppies with him. And after the seminar, the dogs were out, and there was just some, natural puppy stuff going on. And I saw the adult dog make a point or an attempt of a point of something. And I saw all these puppies stack up. At least 3, there might have been 4. There was 3 or 4 puppies that all backed each other naturally because the adult dog did.
Wow.
So, as we're talking, that
made you think of that.
That made me think of that, and I can envision that seminar after the seminar, and to see it, it's like, wow. And these dogs they might have been 8 to 10 weeks old.
Yeah, they were the size of a duck.
They were the size of a duck. They all stacked. It was in a yard, and they all stacked up. And he's like, "Hey, those dogs are back
under your plane seat easily."
Well, yeah, because
put 2 of them under your
during
plane
the duck search seminar, I got one of them out of the crate so they wouldn't pee in it, and they tackled the duck, and the duck was walking off with the dog, the puppy, and she was growling at it and had it by the neck.
Quit dragging me away.
But that 100% instinct, of a stopped motion in front of them. As Jeff mentioned, a mother, I don't think it wasn't a mother dog in this situation, but all the puppies took cue of that back, and their instinct told them to stop, and they were staunch. Now it was for seconds, maybe 10 or 15.
Right. But
it was the inherent ability that those puppies knew to stop and stand.
It's a bit of a rabbit hole. So, pointing's always been tied to cooperation, especially early in duration, maybe, would you say?
Yes.
That early backing puppy, could you almost say it's probably going to be a more cooperative dog?
Absolutely.
Both of you
Yeah, I
would agree with that?
100%, yeah.
You see, that's a very,
God, I wish Brocco's backed.
that's a very high correlation.
You could use the VHDF system and find one that has some kind of, and build on it.
Yeah.
That's how
Or
you
I could
get
just
there.
get myself a nice German wire-haired pointer again.
Yeah, but I think the important thing is it's not just wire.
No,
It's about
absolutely not.
breeding that, as Kyle just mentioned.
In
it's
different parts of
breeding
the
that
country,
trait.
it's all different breeds.
Just use that information and improve what area you need.
Right. Yeah,
If I have whatever breed and I want to get my staunch, intense pointing,
Right.
I can look at other dogs within the breed, no matter where they test within BHDF, and I can
Right.
take those hard numbers.
Right.
They're discriminatory.
Right.
And I can improve where I'm at.
Right. Where you just, without that system, you just don't get that information.
Not as
Just
quick.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I love this. I love this world of the Federation. I love being out here with you guys. I want to tell you, and just like many organizations, we have apprentices with us, and that certainly drags down the day a little bit. No, I'm being sarcastic. They're coming here to learn, not to be like you or me or Jeff. They're coming here because they love this. They love this dog world, this hunting wild bird world, and they're putting themselves on the line to be evaluated. Mm-hmm. We have two apprentices sitting over here. Jared, what? And this is just kind of a not a softball question, but why did you get into apprenticing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been involved in NAVDA 2 for a while, and I've been hanging out at Kyle's kennel for 10 or 12 years, and I just love hunting dogs.
Oh, that one wing of the kennel is named the Jared wing.
And I just fell in love with the dogs, and I fell in love with watching them. And I was up there just on weekends, just watching the training, watching the dogs. And I had thought about doing an apprenticeship for a long time in other organizations. And when the VHDF came up, I just got really, really interested just in the testing, because I'm a wild bird hunter. That's what I love the most. And then I ran my dog, and soon enough I said, I think I want to do this. And
Right.
I think, like we were talking about earlier, I saw my first search behind duck, and I saw a dog that's related to my dog now hit that scent, and I got goosebumps.
Right.
And I said, I'm gonna give this a shot.
I want to have me some of that.
And I did my first seminar, which was really I wasn't even there as an apprentice. I just came to learn.
Right.
And that was just so cool. And what I took away from that in 2-3 days,
It'd be
it
kind of like
sealed
being
the deal.
interested in Little League and somebody taking you to the Hall of Fame and letting you go out with the Yankees.
Right.
You're like, I want to be a baseball player too.
Exactly. And it's been development since then, and it's still developing now.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till August when I can do it again.
Yeah, it's almost like, hurry up. I don't care if summer's here and we got a pool in the backyard. I want to get to my next testing assignment.
Yeah, like I joke with my wife, like every night before I go hunting, I get all my gear out. I get the truck pack because I'm just that type of person. So
Right.
like if I'm apprenticing tomorrow, I have my clipboard, I have my ruler, I have my pens, I have all my gear ready. I got 2 different pairs of boots, a rain jacket, because I forgot a rain jacket one time, so now it's always on my list.
I needed one the other day. Thank you very much.
And it's almost like I'm going hunting tomorrow. Like
Yeah.
I got to have everything ready, and I'm going to give these dogs the best I possibly can.
And I'm softballing this too, and you can tell me if I'm off. It's not that you want to be or I shouldn't say it. This is how I felt when I started.
I didn't want to be the judge of someone's dog. I just liked the whole process of learning, because we learned today. You've been doing this longer than me, Jeff, and we learned something today.
Yeah.
So I think I feel the same way with any apprentice. They should be there because they're like, oh, God, I just learned something that, you know what? The rest of the whole planet doesn't know today. You learn something.
You learn, and it's also contributing.
Yeah.
I think we love the sport that we are
hunting.
involved in, and you want to be part of the solution and make the dogs better and make the sport better. And it's one way you can do it. Nobody gets paid for this.
No.
And it takes a lot of time. And
You came in here on 2 hours sleep with a late flight from Boise.
yeah, I love the midnight flight arrival. It's one of my favorites.
So do I.
When Kyle told me, he says, hey, we got to pick up Jeff Funky around midnight. He says, is there a mouse in your pocket? Because there ain't no we here. And then he dragged Chad with him.
Yeah, well, you know.
Chad, we're talking to Chad the whole way home. He's not responding.
He's sleeping.
He's sleeping.
I mean, this is a 1:30 back to the house kind of trip.
Right.
We got to get up in 3 hours.
Tom, come up here. I want to get a little of your backstory. We had 2 apprentices every day, which is exciting to me because you've got the people that are like, I love this so much, I want to be a part of it. What's your story in getting into?
So, hunted my whole life. Just decided to get a bird dog one time. Joined the local NAVDA chapter because my breeder told me to. Got introduced to Kyle. Started training with Kyle. Heck, I've been training with Kyle for 10 years straight, consistently.
Don't you have your own bed there, or room, or?
I help build the kennel.
Okay.
I help build walls of the kennel. I've helped spackle the kennel. I've helped paint. I've done so much at that farm.
When did the wanting to be a judge come in?
When we started the VACF, I wanted to help, mainly to help our chapter, because we're East Coast, so far away from every other judge.
Yeah.
Mainly just wanted the judge just to help our chapter to get more judges in, because I like handling dogs. I like hunting a lot. And the VACF being a part of the Wire Alliance and stuff like that.
Right.
Wanting to...
It's a perfect fit.
To advance the breeding.
Right.
And it's how I met Jeff, which helped me out with my last breeding. And that's how it started, was mainly just trying to help out the local chapter, because I've been a part of multiple local NAVDA chapters, and I helped start this VHDF chapter because Kyle came back from Minnesota going, this is really freaking cool. We need to do this. And so we hosted what we started it and fell in love with it.
Right.
And that's what got me into this. It's just mainly to help the chapter out, because that's what I do. I help the chapters out with everything that I can.
Yeah, you volunteer for everything. I'll get sandwiches. I'll get that. I got that. I got something in my truck. But that, that's what it takes in what any dog organization or any group of hunting buddies. You can't have any slackers. I mean, I got my one buddy Roof, but he keeps us entertained, so I'm going to give him all the credit for entertaining us.
We know Roof. We know Roof.
Right. He brings the humor. So, but it's like, Kyle didn't ask you to be this helpful, right?
No, I just did this on my own.
You just did it on your own, and that goes back to, why you want to become a judge. You want to help people. It's not. I don't want to say help people. You want to show them that, like, how fun this is. It's just freaking fun.
It's the common goal.
And then I think Jeff and I should charge these guys stories when we tell these old stories from 30 years ago.
They're priceless.
They're priceless.
They're priceless.
And someday I want you guys, when I'm dead and gone, and you might be in a nursing home. Okay, Kyle's going to be living in Arizona.
Yep,
but I'm looking for Tom and Jared to take our place, and then they're going to go like, do you remember when we judged with Jeff and Ron and they told us about blah, 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 blah? That's if that happens, we lived a good life.
We did. The legacy carries on.
If we keep using this system, imagine what we'll be talking in dog stories then.
Yeah. So this is, anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but we were at the Northeast Versatile Hunting Dog Federation test this weekend. It was a 3-day test. I had an absolute ball. My knees gave out on me Saturday, but we got through it with a little more Advil and a little more Tylenol. And it's just I think it's a really up and coming. I don't want to let this go. It's a really hunter based.
It is.
Which-
it's focused on providing information for hunters and
And of course-
organizations
Yeah.
that are involved with hunting.
Yeah, it's made as real as it can be made, and obviously can only be made so real. But
Hunting opportunities are fewer and far between all the time now. So when you go, not only, I mean, people talk about gear. I'm amazed at, I mean, I can't even keep up with all the
Right.
gear out there.
and we should be worried about some other things besides gear.
But you better have a good dog
Yeah.
when you show up. It better be able to answer the bell.
Yeah.
And this type of organization will ensure that you have that.
It does.
Especially if you're new to hunting and you want to get into hunting.
Right.
You might as well have the best companion you can have
Right.
and use the results of the data to make that decision, regardless of the breed, for the type of hunting you want
Right.
to do. Use the information that's free, it's out there, it's part of the testing program to make a decision whether you're a breeder, a hunter, an enthusiast, an outdoorsman, an outdoors
Or maybe
lady,
just dog
whatever
curious.
it is. Yeah.
No.
It's free information.
Yeah. No,
There's a lot of history and work behind it.
I love it. I love you guys, and I love you girls. I'm not supposed to say that anymore, but I still say it on every show. I love you guys. I love you girls. Thanks, Debbie.
And we love you.